channel Enjoy Watercolour Painting and my gallery here in southwest France. I'm Diana, I'm a watercolour artist and I like to paint lots of different subjects. I don't just specialise in one area of watercolours. And today I've chosen for my subject, the subject of this video, the interior of an old chateau that I was lucky enough to visit quite a few years ago. The building had been closed and shuttered up for many years, and the owners who inherited it were just picking up the threads and breathing some life back into the old building. And I had the good luck and fortune to be there when they opened the shutters and let the light in. And I took a photograph of the interior, just welcoming the light after years of being in the darkness. And this is what I want to capture today. I have the image here and I'm going to do the best I can to portray the depth and the atmosphere and the beauty of what was revealed when the shutters were open. So stick with me in this video. I'll cover every step from the start when we already have paper on the board here ready to go. It will be an adventure, so come with me and let's paint. This is the photograph that I took of the room in the chateau when they opened the shutters and let in the light. It was pitch dark because it has windows on front and back of this particular room, and when the shutters were open, the light flooded in. It's very simply furnished with furniture they found in the attic, and I was just struck by the way the old floor, the ceiling, the boarded ceiling and the walls just reflected the light after so many years of being dark and gloomy. So I took the photograph. It's printed not on photographic paper, so the quality isn't that good, and quite honestly it's a little bit tatty because I've had it for quite a few years. But this is the inspiration for my painting today. I want to give the impression of the wonderful atmosphere that the light created when the light came back into the room, the dazzling effect. And for this reason I have done quite a detailed pencil drawing of the window and the table and the limits. This will help me to get the limits of the impact of the light. It's very much a picture of contrast and depth, and really I want to capture that atmosphere, that just the mystery of it, the whole thing being revealed after such a long time. I have a range of colours already here. First of all, I'm going to use these two palettes. The blue palette, mainly I'm going to use manganese blue, which is here. I do have Payne's grey sitting here as well, and cerulean blue and cobalt turquoise. I'm going to avoid the cerulean blue if I can, because cerulean blue can granulate and produce a grainy effect on the paper. And as we see from the image, there is a nuance of blue here on the floor, which I want to capture. And I think the manganese blue will do this. Also, it's present in the vase on the table. And then I have a green palette, which is transparent yellow, a little nuance of Windsor blue green shade, because the exterior of the window, the overgrown garden behind, does help to contribute to the light source. And then I have a darker palette, which is Indian red and Payne's grey, which will help me with the interior. But I'm really going to concentrate on the light colours first. That is, the impact of the light coming through the window, the effect it has on the interior. I have my 2 pots of water, a selection of mop brushes, because quite a lot of this picture, the paint is going to be delivered quite quickly on wet paper. And so I have my extra large, well, size 14 mop brush here. And I'm all set to start. So off we go. I have my palettes all ready to go, and the first thing that I'm going to do is to wet the areas, the panes of glass in the window, just with clean water. This is the background to the painting, the source of light, and I just want to add a hint of the wild garden outside, but I need to put the greens and blues of the undergrowth on the wet paper, so it's just blended, nicely blended. And you see I'm doing that, just dotting the colour in on the wetted areas, working my way along. The drawing then will emerge as we work, so you can see the window as it has been drawn on the paper. I'm just spotting the colour in, leaving the top panes just white to let the white of the paper shine through. The other window by the side, which we only get a glimpse of one half of it, doing the same thing, spotting in the mix of greens from the palette and a hint of blue in places, using my little zero liner brush. Because this is all about the light, we're working on the light areas first, and the impact of the light is that it's reflected on the shiny interior shutters, and they almost act like mirrors, the light's bouncing off them. And so I'm adding a hint of the outdoor colours, the greens and the blues, to both the shutters on each side. And in the interior of the floor, the tiled floor at the foot of the window, and also the parquet floor further down, I'm taking it all in one go, in one gesture, by wetting it first with the large brush so that it's shiny wet. Remember, I have all my palettes ready to go, so I can dip into whatever colour I need. And because we're going right to the back of the painting under the window, we start off with the blues, just adding the blue under the window and under the table as well, which isn't really visible at the moment. I'm spotting the colour in, so there's plenty of blue going on there. And now going to my Indian red Payne's grey. I've also added burnt sienna to this palette too. So now we can move the board and start to get the colour to combine. It's not combining all that readily, it needs a little bit of help. There's a lot of surface tension on the paper, but that's okay. You can intervene and move the colour with the brush, but the key is always, when you've done this, to pick up the board and let it blend naturally, so you get that lovely, very fluid blend to the colour. Adding more manganese blue at the top of the tiled floor, and again letting it move once we've added the colour. Just any surface tension which still exists, you can disturb it with the smaller brush, and you see the colours are combining nicely. This picture is a very limited palette. It's all about contrast and all about atmosphere. The colour is really of secondary importance in this picture. Now it's dry, and so I can turn the whole thing upside down. The reflection of light on the ceiling, on the boarded ceiling, is quite important, and so I'm going back to the blues and greens now and painting upside down because I get a better view of the distribution of the light. We don't want to put our darker colours in until we have a basis of this lovely blue light. So I've added water and then spot the colour in, some blues and greens as before. Only when you start to study a picture like this do you see how complex the light and shading is, and how important it is to that effect of the luminous light streaming in through the window. And it's bouncing off the shutters on either side. So I'm now going to the other side, and again still painting upside down because I get a clearer view. Just adding my mix of blue and green because the light is bouncing off that surface too. And it's not a white light, it is influenced by the greenery outside in the garden. Now everything is dry, and before I start on working on the dark colours, I want to mask a few areas along the base of the panelled walls. And also I'm emphasising the furniture and the window frame using a brown watercolour crayon. This is to help me to get the lines straight, which is never easy, and watercolour crayons are a good means of doing that. And you can see the effect now that has. We can see the table and the chairs, and also we can see that now I'm going in with a really strong mix of burnt sienna, Payne's grey and Indian red on dry paper, working down the darkest part of the painting, and always making sure that my brush is fully charged with paint the whole way down. The masking fluid will resist the paint in some areas, but that's okay. It's just there to help us to give a hint of furniture, but it's not really that important. I've added blue to this mix now because the blue is essential. Again, we're going with that mix on the blue palette, so we get the lovely combination of blues and browns. Sometimes when you've used masking fluid and your brush is charged with it and has been protected with the washing up liquid, it does resist the paint, as you can see in the panel on the right hand side, but we'll deal with that later. Now I'm doing the same on the left hand side of the wall, generously letting the colour follow that vertical line. Same mix, just so we get that really dense colour, and also it's on dry paper. Nice big brush, lots of paint ready to use. And we will spot the blue in as well. It's nice to have the blue. You think it's lost, but actually when the paint dries we will see the blue, and it will give that connection between the lighter colours that we've already put onto the painting. Now we can start to work on the window frame. Because we have the watercolour crayon already to define the frame, this makes the job a little easier. I've had to let the side panels dry before I did this, otherwise I'd smudge them. But you can see I'm working up the darker areas. Now you can observe that at the top of the window, the light coming in means that the frame is kind of dazzled and just almost made fuzzy by the light coming in. So I've just added paint to the bottom 2/3 and then clean water above that, so that the paint that I'm putting on generously washes a little into that frame at the top, and this gives that blurry, dazzled look, as if the light is obscuring the view of the frame, which it is. I'm turning the board so it's easier to work, because it's always best to be really comfortable when you're applying the paint, especially if it's small areas like this where the lines have to be straight. If you're uncomfortable, you'll smudge or wobble, and then that's bad news really. More water, and you can see the paint will run into that wet area and give us the desired effect of the dazzling light coming through the window. Same thing here, just applying the paint generously. Even this small liner will carry a fair amount of paint and help us to deliver the paint strongly, so we don't have to repeat it later on in the process. As I've said, it's all about contrast. Got a bigger brush now, and I'm tackling the area between the windows, again to emphasize the contrast. And now I need to be brave and think about the shadows and the light on the ceiling. So I'm going to move that darker colour up into the area that I've just given a hint of the blues and greens of the light. This looks rather odd to start off with, but we're going to, you'll see as we go how it develops. I'm just dealing with the areas that are darker below, which will interrupt the light as it comes through the window. I have to deliver quite a lot of paint and then immediately get my larger mop brush and wash clean water between the areas, so we don't have a harsh edge, we just have a gradual blending. Moving over to the side as well, consulting the photograph so I can get the distribution of light and shade in the right place. At this stage it looks rather odd, and keep telling yourself that your painting does not have to look totally right all of the time. It's work in progress, and the water is doing the work for you, as always. It's spreading the paint and creating that very translucent and dazzling effect. Just to reinforce that, I'm going in again with more dark colour. I don't want harsh edges, so I want the area that I'm working with to be really wet the whole of the time. And I want again to take the colour up into the areas now that are lighter. So we're now looking at the panelling, and of course we have to go in with more shading. So I'm adding the burnt sienna Payne's grey mix to the side there and running it. I don't want to lose the green, I don't want to lose the light. So this is not a dense covering like we did around the window and the two side panels. It's more wishy-washy and also more diluted. And that gives me the chance now to go back to the area above the window and to add a little bit of texture just to indicate the panelling on the wall. I've had to break this picture up into sections because it is quite a complex picture, and I don't think this is a bad thing in that it will help, I hope, for you to see the different stages. Now you can see it's all dry, And I'm going back to the ceiling because of course there's still some work to do here. Again with the darker colour. I have wet the area first, so the lines that I put in, the darker areas that I put in, will start to blend with what's there already. And I want that central column of darkness to be equally as dark as the areas on either side, and I want to give a hint of the light coming through the window, which is not too structured, and so looks like a light rather than just something solid. It's a fine line really, but I like painting like this because you just have to trust in the water helping to spread the colour, and I'm putting more darker colour on either side so we don't have any harsh lines. Move it a little and let it start to blend. Feeling happier with it now. We mustn't forget the blue. The blue needs to be there, just giving that connection with the rest of the painting. Now I think that effect's working now. I think we have achieved that dazzling look. The light is coming in now, which is good. You can always tip it and let the water move the colour a little. Okay. It will still change even when I stop moving the colour. Now you can see it's dry, and I need to focus on the floor. And of course the shadows created by the chairs, which have been defined a little bit more with paint. I'm putting in the shading and then moving it very gently so we don't completely lose it, but I want all this area to be wet. But first of all, I'll add the colour to the chair leg and table leg reflections on the tiled floor. Just move them a little, not too much, don't want to lose them. We want them to be there, but we want them to be less defined than the actual legs of the furniture. I'll leave that just to start to dry and add more blue in the areas around the edge of the room. Now it's all wet, it will blend nicely, and any areas that are still dry, I just add water by the side. There we go. I love that combination, that blue just sings out, it is a wonderful colour. Now we have to think about the parquet floor. I hope you can see, but I have just suggested the lines of the parquet. If you've got a textured surface in the foreground, don't be tempted to do it in really great detail. Just suggest. It's far better because we don't want the eye to be drawn to that. We want the eye to go into the painting. And often the foreground, if it has too much information, stops that process. Now I'm putting the shading along the side, moving it horizontally, letting the water move it really. Spot more colour in. And on the other side the same. Of course we did this earlier on in the process, but it has dried and it is too light, so we need to add more colour and more detail, but not too much. And of course the blue needs to be there as well. We can wash it up into the wall just to give that connection. We don't want that connection between the wall and the floor to be too stark. We want a natural blending to occur. There we go, we can move it horizontally. I think it's about time for me to think about stopping. There's always a tendency to fiddle at this point, which is sometimes detrimental. Just before I stop, I've decided just to re-emphasize the shading. It had dried a little bit light, so a little bit more definition there is good. And there we are. The picture is drying and we do have lots of light. Thank you for watching my video. It turned out to be quite a complicated project in the end, with lots of different stages and lots of different techniques involved. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it's inspired you to welcome the light in your paintings, to use the white of the paper to create the dazzling effect, and also to enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave any comments you may have. Till the next time, bye.